Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, and here we are for our weekly live stream training. I just had to like total tech support for the website and make some changes on the fly, and I'm kind of having to like redirect myself here for a minute. So I'm sharing that just so I can help myself refocus and recenter on what we are about to get started on regarding our conversation and our discussion today. And I am just going to make sure that I am not connected to my Wi-Fi, because sometimes when I'm connected to my Wi-Fi on my phone, instead of just using the data, it kicks us off, and then we have to start all over again. And I've learned, as long as I'm not using Wi-Fi while doing these, knock on wood, cross my fingers, all those things we need to be doing, we don't get kicked off. Okay, so I am also going to pull up the Facebook group and make sure I can see myself, and then we can get started. If you're here live, drop a comment below and let me know. That way I can make sure that I can see the comments either coming up on my phone screen as I'm talking to you guys and we're doing this, or I'll see them on the computer. So then that way I kind of know where I'm looking. So when you see me kind of look away, that's what I'm doing, is I am looking at my computer screen to make sure I'm catching any. Hi, Olivia. I saw your comment on my computer, right at my phone. So this is why we do that. So this topic today is one that I start with for all of my private clients. And it is something that we go over. There's worksheets and exercises and conversations, because we actually don't realize how much of our time we give away and how much of our energy that we just like lose because we're not focused. And really, when we're thinking about boundaries, right, we kind of liken it to a fence. So when you see a fence around a piece of property, it's a boundary line, right? It tells people this is where this piece of property ends and that piece of property begins. And that's exactly what our boundaries do. It tells us and everybody else, this is where I end and where you begin. And it is self-respecting to establish boundaries and to reinforce them. Now, what will happen as we are doing this, and yes, Olivia, it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. And what I believe, and this is my perspective, what I believe is the most exhausting about setting and reinforcing boundaries is actually the training of the people who are coming up against our boundaries. So if you have somebody that kind of just sucks all your time and you have a hard time saying no to, that it's those people that when you start to kind of say, I can't do that today, or I can't do that tomorrow, or I'm just unable to help you with that for whatever reason, that their response, right, is normally like they're being rebuffed. It's like, what do you mean you can't help me? And they may not be outwardly saying it, but they're thinking it. And they're showing it on their face. And it's that disappointment that we see in them that we kind of want to backtrack and go, okay, yeah, no, let me see if I can move things around and help you. Or, okay, I'll just do it this one time, And that's what becomes exhausting, because it becomes like this ping pong, right? Like you're back and forth, and you want to reinforce it, but you don't. And then you get frustrated, and then now you're disappointed in yourself, and there's all these emotions happening. And I think, Olivia, when you say it's exhausting, that's the piece that's exhausting, because we just want people to respect the fact that we've just said no and that we don't have to explain ourselves. And we want people to be able to see that our time is valuable, our energy is valuable, and that it can't be taken for granted. And so, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to kind of talk about this today, because we've talked about sales, we've talked about marketing and our branding and just kind of building a business and what that looks and feels like. And we talked about boundaries way back. I want to say I did a a conversation, a training on it, maybe in July. It's likely in the guide section, but it's worth revisiting regularly. And so this won't be the last time we'll talk about it, because you guys will have, new perspectives. You'll have new challenges that you might want to, kind of put out there and say, this is what's happening for me. How can I work through it, or how can I overcome it? And so it's a learning process. And so knowing that, we have to safeguard our time and our energy, because it's a commodity. And when you think of commodities, they're valuable, right? Like you hear it in the stock market, oh, the commodities are whatever, right? That's your time and that's your energy. They're commodities, and you have to treat them with the same level of respect and investment. And I will guarantee you that the more you kind of create those boundaries and you reinforce them, in the beginning, it'll be hard. It'll be really challenging, but it will be worth it, because when people start to realize that your time is valuable, oh, look, I have a little thing sticking out. Hello, squirrel moment. Sorry, girls. That they will start to respect it, and it will become not so overwhelming, and people will start to realize that this is how I have to work with her. This is how I have to interact with her. And it becomes a level of respect. And, we talk about respect that, I demand respect, right? Like we all demand respect, and it kind of sounds harsh, but respect doesn't happen unless you're modeling it. And that's what boundaries really are, right? We are modeling for people the level of respect that we have for ourselves, and therefore they need to have for us. So, good morning, Maria. Good morning, Kayla. So think about if you had to identify the one instance, the one person, the one situation that absolutely challenges you the most about your boundaries. So it could be your mother, it could be your mother-in-law, it could be your children, it could be whomever, it could be a coworker, it could be a client, right? So you're going to want to think about, what does that look like? And I took this conversation with my children when they were very young. We talk about boundaries, right? So my children are now 12 and 15, but when they were super little, it's kind of like that. You have those conversations about stranger danger and, privacy and, people, all those things, right? I don't need to go into it, but I used the conversation with them to use our home. So at the time we were living in Oregon, and our house and our yard was fenced in. And so I shared with them, right? Like our bedrooms were on the second floor. And so I kind of used the visual for them that your bedroom is your absolute most intimate space, right? The yard is fenced in, and then there's the public. And so it's one, who would you let into your yard? So who are you going to open the gate and let into your yard, right? So that's your first layer of boundary. It's like, well, okay, so I'm going to say yes to these people because I would actually let them into my yard. So I'm going to give them access to my energy levels, to my time, and to my commitment, and because there's somebody that I would hang out in my backyard with. So then it was like, okay, so now they're in your backyard. Out of all those people, who would you let come into the house? Well, think about, what are they going to do in the house? They're going to access even more energy and more time for you. So, okay, so then now those people are, now you've kind of filtered them into the house. Well, then it's like, well, now they're in the house. They're kind of in the foyer, kind of, they have access to, small things, but who are you going to let upstairs? Because now our house was two floors. So who are you going to let upstairs? Because that's where we sleep. Like that's where you play. That's where all of our personal stuff is, right? So who are you going to let up into that second floor? Because they're going to gain access to even more energy and more of your time. Okay, now that's even filtered. And then who are you going to let into your bedroom? because that's where all your favorite toys are, your favorite books, right? And so you can kind of see this filtering system. And it's those people that you would actually let in to your bedroom that have unlimited access to you, right? So what I said to my children and what I've expressed with my other clients is, those are the people that can call me anytime and I'm about to jump up and I don't care what it is and I'm coming, right? Those are the people that it doesn't matter what's happening, what's going on. And so they have a key to the house, right? It's a certain key that's going to unlock and let them all the way up. And so they know that, and they know that because I've been able to establish certain rules and expectations around that interaction. And then the people that I allow to come into the house, but not upstairs, they get a different key, a different level of access. And then the people that I don't let in the house, but in the yard, they again get a different key, a different access level to me and the energy I have. Oh, hi, Nicole. So you want to think about when you're creating these boundaries, kind of in a layered approach, because like my kids, like I said to them, like, you guys have like the one key that fits all access, right? Like there's obviously certain boundaries, but I mean, like they can call me anytime, 24/7. I don't care where they are in the world. I don't care what I'm doing. Like if I need to drop everything, I'm going to drop it and come, right? So with my clients, what does that look like? Well, that looks a little bit different, right? So I have a 911 system set up for my clients that if they are in a situation where they really need crisis management support, then it's a text message with 911 in it saying, hey, Karen, 911, here's, a synopsis of the situation. And then within the next 3 to 4 hours, I call them, right? Depending upon what the situation is and what I'm doing, et cetera, but within 4 hours. So those are the boundaries, right? So what are your boundaries within your business, within your personal life, and how are you able to say yes versus no? And clarity comes from kind of taking a step back and saying, good morning, Maria, who has access to me that doesn't really need access to me, right? And you kind of got to take that, that little approach with, the hand on the hip and going, wait, just stop for a second. Who is that? And what are they doing? And are they being respectful of my time or not? And then when you have the answer, then you have to back up a couple of steps and say, wait a minute, where's my responsibility in this? Have I set the expectation that they're allowed to do that or they're not allowed to do that, right? So when we're going to create boundaries and set them and reinforce them, you have to be clear of who and what that is and how they're associated with you, so you know what boundaries you need to put in place. So as a business, one of our boundaries is our office hours, right? So if you have a brick and mortar store, you have store hours. So you open at 9 a.m., you close at 5 p.m. After 5 p.m., they don't get to buy from you, right? Because you're not open. So that's a communication tool. So once you actually set these boundaries in place, and we'll use office hours as our example for today, right? We've set office hours, then you have to just reinforce them by somebody calls you at 5:05 to say, can you unlock your store door? I need to buy something. Oh, and I have another story about that, right? Because now I'm actually recalling it. So, right, can I come and buy this product from you? You get to either say what? You get to say, yes, come over, I'll meet you at the store and unlock it and sell you that item. Or 2, you know what, I'm not able to make it back to the store right now. I can meet you at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So this is a side story that totally blends in and dovetails, and you'll understand in a minute. So I grew up in a general store. So our house, think of Little House on the Prairie, our residence was attached to the store. And you literally went through an unlocked door from our residence, kitchen, living room space, into the store. And everybody knew that. We were the grocery store in town, right? So I can count on one hand how many times on Christmas morning somebody knocked at the front door and said, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Kleinwort, I need some milk. Can I get a bag of milk? It's Christmas morning. Like, we're about to open presents. We owned the store for 16 years. So all of a sudden, you have to think about that. 16 years and my parents only answered that door on Christmas morning less than 5 times. That was their boundary. That was what they were able to do. Now, they also got calls at midnight where this is an emotional part, right? So midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, it happened at least 4 times. Somebody's house has just burnt down because it was a general store. We had clothing, we had food, we had all the supplies. Guess what we did? We opened the doors. Didn't question it, right? So boundaries are there not to be abused. See, my 4-legged doorbell, Roxy agrees, right? Boundaries. So think about when your boundaries are okay to be broken. What is that instance? And are you okay with it? What are you giving up to say, I'll meet you at the store in 5 minutes and allow you to buy that product, whatever that looks like, right? Or jump on the phone and support you. You get to dictate what your boundaries are, how they're implemented, and when you get to adjust them. Nobody else. You. So, thinking about that, what are the anomalies? What are the situations that you're going to say, yes, come, I'm going to open the door. Hey, Roxy, right? So, right, for my parents, it was an emergency situation. Absolutely, no problem. Like, it's a free-for-all, right? For my clients, absolutely. If they're going to text me 911, it's because it's a crisis. I'm absolutely going to figure out how to support them in the next 3 to 4 hours because it's important, right? So, but if somebody's going to, shoot me a message at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, I'm going to respond in the morning, right? Unless, of course, they're using that 911 situation. So it's all about setting that situation and those systems in place. And it's then about communicating them, right? So my clients know, it's part of our conversation within the first session. This is the situation about 911. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what that looks and feels like. Let's talk about how I support you outside of that situation, but yet you still need some sort of support. So you have to know what situations you're willing to bend and let go of the boundary. Because when you know the situation in advance, guess what it gives you? It gives you the confidence to be able to say, I'll answer your question in a second, Maria, right? It gives you the confidence to say, no, I can't do it. And Maria, you make a really good point with your question. What if your business is totally online? So the boundaries are, tech support is available between this hour and this hour. You send a contact message, the response, so when you're on the Get Biz Savvy site and you send a contact form in, you get a response saying, our goal is to respond to you within 24 hours. If you're contacting us over a weekend, it may take up to 48 hours, right? So that's the boundary. People are okay as long as they know. It's when they don't know that they get upset and they get frustrated. So think about, like, really what pisses you off. If you try and reach out to a business and they don't respond, what is that time frame? And we have to remember, we are in this like instantaneous world, right? Like everybody wants everything yesterday. I sent a text message. Why didn't they respond? Like they should have responded immediately. Are they not on their phone? How are they not responding? Right? And we can catch ourselves in the same situation, right? With the same mindset. So we have to slow ourselves down and say, well, wait a second. Is this really an emergency type situation? Like, how important is it that I get the solution to this now versus tomorrow morning? And this happens in the corporate world all the time, right? When I was working corporate, I would be home on vacation over Christmas and my laptop would be open. And I'm aging myself here, but this is, back when cell phones were still an anomaly. They weren't like in everybody's pocket. And I'd have my cell phone on the table with my laptop, and my parents would be like, are you actually on vacation for Christmas, or are you going to work at some, are you like, and it would become a conversation. And I'd have to really work on unplugging and letting go, because I know whatever I was working on, it could really wait until I got back, right? So you have to learn to train your customers and your clients. What is the expectation of your communication back to them? And if you can live up to it. Don't set yourself up for failure. That's the other tip, right? Don't say you're going to reply within 24 hours if you know your life has so many balls in the air that 24 hours is actually asking a lot of you. And give yourself permission to be honest, right? Because life does throw us a curveball, and we have to know and appreciate that we need to be flexible, and our clients will meet us there. So what does that look like? What are your office hours, right? They have them in the schools, right? Even though the professors are walking into the university and they might be in their office for the 10 or 12 hours, they have office hours for the students to come and have access to them. Why? So they can get work done. And this is where scheduling time to say, I need to work on my administrative stuff. So I need to, we talked about time blocking in another training session, right? So time block out 30 minutes to do X, Y, and Z admin, whether it be client relations, business building, program development, financial records, whatever that looks like, right? Time block it out, put it on your calendar. It doesn't move unless there's an emergency situation come up, right? That's your time to do that. Or you really have a goal of, losing weight and wanting to go to the gym and just really working on yourself, or meditating, whatever that might look like. Put it on your calendar. Give yourself the respect that those pieces are that important to you that they get on your calendar. And they're not written in pencil. They're written in pen, unless, again, an emergency situation comes up. So that's what the boundaries are all about, is really kind of reinforcing. It builds your confidence to say, yes, I can do this. Yes, this is important. Yes, I do this for me, which ultimately does what? It does it for your business. Because the activities that you're saying yes to have to support your business moving forward. So if you're saying yes to an activity that isn't supporting your long-term goals or your short-term goals, then you have to ask yourself, why am I saying yes? Why am I investing my time and energy to, write it in pen, exactly, Nicole, right? Why am I saying yes to something that's not helping me towards my goal? And I can hear some of you in your mind going, oh, that sounds awfully selfish. Aren't I being selfish if I always say no? There's that little stray hair again. I don't know what it wants to do. It's driving me crazy though, distracting, right? So what does that sound like for you? Selfishness isn't a bad thing. Putting yourself first is not being selfish. Putting yourself first is showing yourself self-respect. It models for everybody else your priorities and what's important. It communicates to everybody else that this is really important and you need to get on board with this being important to me. Because I can help you, but I need to help myself first. Because now I'm going to ask you the question. If you're on an airplane and they say, put your oxygen masks on first, what are you supposed to do? Yes, your yes has to align with your goals. Absolutely, Maria. Right? So if you have to in an emergency situation, put your oxygen mask on first before you're allowed to help anybody else. How is that not selfish, but actually helpful? Helpful because you can't be helpful if you're not around to help. So when we're looking at setting boundaries and enforcing them, you are putting your oxygen mask on. You are helping yourself first, so you are absolutely available and 100% in a position emotionally, mentally, physically, energetically to help those that you serve. Product or service space doesn't matter, right? So what's the next thing you can do? Setting boundaries. You can delegate. And we did talk about what's the difference between delegation and outsourcing in a previous training, right? So, but in this instance, you want to be able to identify those tasks or those opportunities where you might want to say yes, that you can then refer it to somebody else. Yes, Maria, you can't pour out of an empty cup. Exactly, right? So how do you then pass it forward? So through delegation, right? So my kids are old enough, they do their own laundry. They do dishes, right? They do things around the house that I used to have to do for them because they were too little. So they've grown up and they realize now they want clean clothes, they've got to do their own laundry. Now, if they need help, obviously I'm going to help them if they, for whatever reason, right? Or if I've got a small load and I ask them to put clothes in. So boundaries go a long way. Delegating allows you to reinforce those boundaries, and then it teaches somebody else the same skill, right? It provides opportunity for somebody else. So going through your big long to-do list and saying, I can do this, 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 and this, but these 3 pieces I just don't have time for. So your next step then is to identify who can do that for you. So I'm just going to read Maria's comment. How can you delegate or outsource when it's just you and you're tight on a budget? Great question. So this is when it becomes the piece of learning how to use services and systems to have in place to automate. So I have, when people join the group and they provide their email address, I add them to the email list and they automatically get sent a welcome message with the free resource that they've requested. And I actually got a message this morning saying, how did you send out my email so quickly? I literally just joined your group. Like, do you have a system in place? And my answer was yes. I delegated it to an automated system to say, when I give you this email address and I tag it with this verbiage, you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do that, right? So I don't have to physically do it. So now I've reduced my energy input from 20 minutes down to 5, right? So I've delegated to systems. And then that can be, right? So that can be a goal. Like, Maria, if there are certain things that you just, one, don't have the skill set for, or you don't have the time for, then that can be one of your goals, that you want to reach a certain point in your business that you can delegate that out or you can outsource it. So it also goes back to skill, right? What is your skill set and what are you handy at? And the two are not the same, right? So you can be handy at something, which means you can kind of like flub your way along and get it done, but it's going to not be very efficient and it's going to take you longer than somebody who actually has a skill at it. And so the decision then becomes, how much is your time worth? And if you can't do it to the time frame that somebody else can, so if it's going to take you, say, an hour to do a task that somebody else can do in 15 minutes, what's that time value for you? And is it more cost effective for you to, and I'm just going to use round numbers, pay somebody $20 to do that task that took them 15 minutes, but saved you an hour of your time. Because how much is your time worth an hour? And this actually dovetails right into boundaries, right? So I know what I'm really good at. I know what I'm okay at. And I know what I have no business doing. And if I have to do a task that's in that paradigm of I have no business doing that, then I'm going to be looking for a solution that can get that done because I can't. Or if I do, then God helps all, right? Because then it becomes a bigger mess than if I just paid somebody to do it. So that's where you start having those conversations when you're looking at your budget. Like, what are the tasks? What are the items that have to get done that you just really have no business doing? Or that you're going to learn to do, learn to love, so you can do them more efficiently and effectively. And you have that learning curve where it may take you an hour in the beginning, but you get it down to that 10 or 15 minute mark. So, and then you become your own solution. So Nicole is like, sometimes you meet a VA who will teach you how to do it and you can hire out. Absolutely. I mean, virtual VAs now, well, I just said that twice, right? Virtual assistants, VAs, are like a gold mine, and they can come in and, I mean, really just support you at a one-time thing or a reoccurring item or a long-term. So Maria, that might be a solution for you to start considering, like, what are the tasks that you might be able to outsource or delegate to a VA that can get it done to the level of expectation that you want it done, right? So I'll use house cleaning as an example, right? Because I think we all, I don't know, maybe you won't agree with me, but I don't really enjoy house cleaning. I mean, I'll do it because I have to, and I'm decent at it, right? But I'm likely not as good as some people. And so, but there is, that's the budget. So it's like, I'm going to spend how much time, what's my time budget to clean my home every week, every other week, whatever that looks like. And I'm going to break it down into smaller tasks, right? Bathroom, floors, windows, etc. So with that, am I going to hire that out at some point? Am I going to keep doing it myself? Like, how much time do I have to do it? Now, fortunately, I have, 2 teenagers that have a chore list, and it includes some of that house cleaning stuff. So, but until then, it was me, myself, and I. And I'd love to say that my husband helps, and I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but at some point, like, we decided that we needed to have somebody come in once a month to do his turn to help clean the house, because he doesn't have the time, and he's gone this week, right? So that's part of the trade-off too. So at some point, if you're not able to do it or get to it, but it has to get done, then you need to hire it out, and you need to start looking at how to budget for that. So that's in my husband's budget. So when the house cleaner does come, it's because he's too lazy and he doesn't want to do it. And he doesn't want to help out, right? So, and he'll be the first one to admit it. So I'm not saying anything that he wouldn't agree with. And that becomes that other boundary, right? So for me, I can't do everything around our house with the kids and the home and the dog and my own business, et cetera, et cetera. I need help. So if you know you need help, that's being authentic, right? That's where we get to raise our hand and go, I can't do all this. That's a boundary. I can't be expected to do all this. That's a boundary. So knowing how to communicate to others what your expectation is or how you need help is really important. So, and just make sure there's no comments. Right? So think about that. Think about what are all the things that you're expecting of yourself. And do you need to start having boundaries within yourself to say, I can't do it all. I need help. I can't do this. Or I'm not really good at this. Or I don't know how to do this. I need help. And it's not a bad thing to raise your hand and say, I need help. So giving yourself permission to say no. No, thank you. I really don't have the time. I appreciate you thinking that I'd be a really great fit or I'd be a really great person to do that or to help you with that. But at this time, I don't have the time or the space to do that. I'm really sorry. But good luck. Or if I know somebody, I can send them your way, kind of thing, right? Giving yourself permission to say no and allowing yourself to say yes when you really want to and when it's supporting something you really want to be doing. We talked about being flexible with yourself. We talked about giving yourself some grace when it comes time to say no. And it's going to feel funky in the beginning, right? So Olivia, we were talking about how it's overwhelming and it's so exhausting to have boundaries. In the beginning, it is. The more we do it, the easier it becomes until we realize we have to put a new boundary in or we have to adjust a boundary. And then it kind of goes back, right? So it's that ebb and flow. So we talked about that. So knowing your skill level, knowing exactly what you're good at, what you need help with, what you should not be doing. We talked about that to-do list and prioritizing what's really important, getting it done, and how you say no, how you say yes to adding new things or rearranging it. What else has everybody got about boundaries, time management, being able to prioritize? Hi, Missy. Hi, Annie. Welcome. So, anybody got any questions? Let's see here. And I know a big one when we have to let go is control. So really working on what that might look and feel like for yourself as well. And are you ready to let go of control, right? So as some of you know, Ariana started with us second week of January, I think it was. And it was, right, there was a learning curve because I had to learn to let go of control. I had to learn to, trust that she's going to do it the way I would do it. Wait a minute. Oh, my way isn't always the right way. And it's not always the only way to do things, right? Those are the conversations that I've been having in my head, right? Because that's where we get. So boundaries are the same thing. Keep reinforcing them. Keep reminding yourself why this boundary is so important for yourself to have and for you to use and to keep reinforcing. So anybody have any questions? Even if it's not about boundaries. So we talked, boundaries are like kind of, I'll just do a quick recap of what I spoke about in the beginning when we talked about boundaries and liking it to your residence in your home and those people that have access to you, unlimited energy, unlimited time, versus those that don't have an all access key, right? So your residents, who do you let in from the general public into your yard, have a certain level of access to you, your time and energy. Those that you let into your home have a different level of access to your energy and time. Those that you let upstairs to your more personal space has even more access, more time. And then those that you let into your quote unquote bedroom have that unlimited access. So I shared, that was a conversation I had with my children when they were much younger, so they would understand boundaries. So like I said to them, my kids, they have that all access pass. Certain friends have access pass to upstairs. Certain friends have access into the house. Certain people have access into the yard. So where do your people, clients, customers, family, friends, associates, where do they fit within that all access pass versus limited access? And that will help you start to discern where your boundaries are and then the next question is the task that you're going to say yes to, is it moving you closer to your goal or not? For your business, for yourself. So that's kind of like a really quick recap. Anybody? Because if we don't have any other questions, any comments, anybody need support on anything else? Then I think we might be done. Thursday is the skills workshop. We are doing Trello, and it is a productivity time management. So when we're talking about productivity and time management and systems, we're going to go, and you're going to, actually Nicole is going to be leading it. She's going to be my co-host, and she's going to walk us through what Trello is, how to use it, how to set up boards, how it's going to help you be more productive and better use of your time. There is an extra step for that because we are doing it through Zoom. So you'll need to go to the getbizsavvy.com/events page, and on there, click on the featured event on February 8th and register and save your seat. Because with the recording, there's a security step that people have to be logged in. So that just kind of gives us the permission that they'll be recorded. Where, you know, when we're doing live stream here, I know there's likely a way for us to do whiteboards and things and sharing screens, but it becomes, the logistics are much more challenging, where Zoom, it becomes much easier. So that's why we're doing it that way. I will drop the link in the comments here for that event. We are limiting the number of people to 25. So if you haven't registered your seat, I would register that in the next day. And what else? I think that's about it for today. You're welcome, Maria. You're welcome, Nicole. And all right, so we'll see everybody on Thursday for the skills training. And then if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments. Feel free to reach out to Ariana or myself with any questions. You can slide into our DMs anytime and ask questions if you need some guidance. All of the past trainings are in the guides, so if there's anything that you're looking for specific support on, you can start there. And then again, make sure you've posted an intro and told us who you are and what you do and what you need, okay? So thanks for being here today. Look forward to Thursday, and we'll see you next Tuesday for sure for the next live stream. Have a great day, everybody.